On the edge of known space where stars burned cold and red lay the planet Valus. Its skies were always the color of rust, and its winds carried the scent of old stone and dried blood. Few humans ever came here. Those who did rarely left. Liam Carter was not supposed to be one of them. He had been part of a small scout team sent by the Terran Outpost Gamma to map the outer rim. But their ship took damage near a gravity well, and they crash-landed on Valus. Of the 5 crew members, only Liam survived the impact. He dragged himself from the wreckage with a broken arm and half a canteen of water. For 3 days he walked through the cracked plains, following the faint signal of a rescue beacon that never came. On the 4th day, they found him. They moved like shadows between the stone spires, tall, slender figures with skin like pale moonlight and eyes that glowed faintly silver. Their armor was made of woven metal and bone, and their weapons hummed with quiet energy. They did not speak. They simply surrounded him, raised their blades, and waited. Liam dropped to his knees, not in surrender but from exhaustion. He raised his hand slowly. "I mean no harm," he tried to say, but his voice was gone. One of the figures stepped forward. She was taller than the others, her face sharp and unreadable. A commander, Liam guessed. From the way the others parted for her, she studied him with cold eyes, then spoke in a voice like wind through glass. "You are human." Liam nodded. "You have entered the Blood Hollows," she said. "Sacred ground. Forbidden to outsiders," he wanted to explain. The crash. The signal. The fact that he didn't even know this place had a name. But before he could form the words, another figure appeared behind the commander. Smaller, cloaked in deep blue with long silver hair that shimmered like water under starlight. At her side moved a creature no bigger than a large dog, but with wings folded tight against its back and eyes that burned like embers. It was a dragon, not the kind from old Earth myths, but something real, alive and watchful. The dragon tilted its head, sniffing the air. Then it made a low sound, almost like a purr. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Silence, Ember," she said, not unkindly. The cloaked woman said nothing. She only watched Liam, her gaze steady and strange. "You will face judgment," the commander declared. "By the law of Fang and Sky, trespassers in the Blood Hollows must prove their worth, or be given to the Dreadmaw." Liam had never heard of the Dreadmaw, but the way the others stiffened at the name told him enough. He was dragged to a stone amphitheater carved into the side of a mountain. Thousands of the silver-eyed people, Silthari he would later learn they were called, filled the tiers, silent and still. At the center stood a massive arch made of black bone. Beneath it a pit yawned open, dark and endless. The commander, whose name was Kalen Voss, addressed the crowd. "This human has defiled our sacred land. He will be cast into the maw. If he returns, he earns the right to speak. If not, the Dreadmaw feasts, no trial, no defense, just exile into the unknown." As guards bound his hands, Liam looked toward the cloaked woman. She stood apart from the crowd near the edge of the platform. The dragon, Ember, sat at her feet, tail curled around its body. Their eyes met. Hers held no pity, but something else. Curiosity, maybe even hope. Then the guard shoved him forward. He fell into the pit. The drop felt endless. Wind screamed in his ears. Rock scraped his skin. He braced for impact, but instead of hitting stone, he landed in something soft and wet. Mud, thick, black, and warm. He coughed, struggling to stand. Around him, the cavern stretched farther than he could see. Strange fungi glowed on the walls, casting pale blue light. The air smelled of iron and rot. And then he heard it, a low rumble deep in the earth, like thunder, but alive. He ran. For hours, maybe days, he moved through tunnels that twisted like veins. He found water in shallow pools. He ate bitter moss that made his tongue numb but kept him alive. He slept in hollows, always listening, always afraid. The Dreadmaw did not come all at once. It came in pieces. First the ground shook, then the walls bled black fluid. Then the air grew hot, too hot like standing near a furnace. And finally the eyes, 2 massive orbs, each the size of a shuttle, glowing red in the dark. The Dreadmaw was not a beast in the way humans thought of beasts. It was part mountain, part machine, part living storm. Its body stretched across the cavern like a living city, its hide made of armored plates and pulsing veins. It did not roar. It whispered, in his mind. "You are small," it said. "You are nothing." Liam stumbled back, heart pounding, but something in him refused to break. He had lost his crew, his ship, his home. He would not lose himself. "I am Liam Carter," he said aloud, voice raw but steady. "And I am not food." The Dreadmaw paused. Then it laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "You speak rare." It did not attack. Instead, it watched him, studied him. And over time, Liam realized the truth. The Dreadmaw was not hunting him. It was testing him. So he stopped running. He sat by one of the glowing pools and cleaned his wounds. He spoke to the creature not with fear but with respect. He told it about Earth, about oceans and trees and children laughing under a yellow sun. The Dreadmaw listened. Days passed. The bond grew strange but real. One night as Liam slept, the Dreadmaw lowered its massive head until its eye was level with him. "You are not like the others," it said. "They come to kill." "You came to live," Liam nodded. "I just want to go home." "There is no home for you above," the Dreadmaw replied. "They will kill you for surviving." "Maybe," Liam said. "But I'd rather face them than hide down here forever." The Dreadmaw was silent for a long time. Then it spoke again. "Then take my bones. Wear them as proof. Let them see what you have done. Not with violence, but with courage." Before Liam could ask what it meant, the creature shuddered. Its light dimmed. Its breath slowed. It was dying, not from age, but by choice. As its body cooled, its plates cracked open, revealing smooth, strong bones beneath, light enough to carry, hard enough to stop a blade. Liam worked for days, shaping them into armor, a helmet, greaves. He did not take more than he needed. He buried the rest with honor. When he was ready, he found a path upward, a narrow shaft of light far above. He climbed, hand over hand, wearing the bones of the beast that should have killed him. Back on the surface, weeks had passed. The Silthari had moved on. The Blood Hollows were quiet, but someone was waiting. Ilara Moonweaver stood at the edge of the pit, her cloak fluttering in the wind. Ember sat beside her, wings half spread, eyes wide with something like wonder. She did not look surprised to see him. She only looked at the armor he wore, the curved ribs across his chest, the fang-shaped pauldrons, the skull helm tucked under his arm, and whispered a single word in her own tongue. Ashenborn. Liam did not understand the word, but he saw the change in her eyes. Where there had been curiosity, now there was awe. Behind her, in the distance, the towers of the Silthari city gleamed under the red sky. And somewhere in that city, Commander Kalen Voss would soon learn that the human she had sent to die had returned, not broken, but remade. And tradition demanded that when one returned wearing the bones of the Dreadmaw, they were owed a single request. Anything. Liam had not decided what to ask for yet, but as he stepped onto solid ground, Ember trotted forward and nudged his hand with its snout. The dragon's warmth was real, its trust unexpected. For the first time since the crash, Liam felt he was not alone, and that, more than revenge or rescue, gave him strength. Weeks passed on Veles. The red wind still blew, the twin suns still rose and set in silence, and the Silthari went about their lives as if nothing had changed. But something had. Liam Carter was alive. He walked out of the Blood Hollows not as a prisoner, not as a ghost, but as something new. His body was lean from hunger, his face marked by scars, but his eyes held a calm that unsettled even the oldest warriors. And he wore armor made from the bones of the Dreadmaw, the creature no Silthari had ever faced and lived. News spread fast. At first, the guards at the outer watchtowers thought he was a spirit. Then they saw the bone plates gleaming under the suns, the way Ember the dragon flew low above him like a guardian. They did not attack. They stepped aside. By the time Liam reached the city of Silthar, a crowd had gathered. Thousands lined the stone streets, silent, watching. No one spoke. No one moved. They only stared at the human who had done the impossible. Commander Kalen Voss stood on the high balcony of the obsidian spire, her silver robes tight around her shoulders. Her face was stone, but her fingers gripped the railing until her knuckles turned white. She had sent him to die. She had been certain of it. The Dreadmaw had devoured entire squads of elite hunters. No one survived. No one. Yet here he was. At the base of the spire, Ilara Moonweaver waited. She had not left the city since the day Liam vanished into the pit. She had refused council meetings, ignored summons, and spent her nights on the roof with Ember, watching the stars. Now as Liam approached, she stepped forward alone. "You came back," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. Liam stopped a few paces away. He was tired, but he stood tall. I said I would. She looked at the armor. You wear its bones. I do. Why? Because it asked me to. Ilara's eyes widened slightly. No Silthari had ever spoken to the Dreadmaw and lived, let alone claimed it spoke back. She glanced at Ember, who let out a low, rumbling chirp, almost like approval. Before she could say more, horns blared from the spire. Guards in polished armor marched down the steps, forming a line between Liam and the entrance. At their head stood Voss herself, her expression unreadable. The human returns, she announced, her voice carrying over the crowd, wearing the bones of the Dreadmaw. A murmur rippled through the onlookers. Some bowed their heads. Others stepped back in fear. By the law of Fang and Sky, Voss continued, any who return from the maw wearing the beast's bones are granted one demand before the High Conclave. Speak it now, human. What is your wish? All eyes turned to Liam. He looked at Voss, then at Ilara, then at the sea of silver-eyed faces. He could ask for freedom, for a ship, for weapons, for revenge, but he said nothing. He only shook his head slowly. Voss frowned. You refuse your right? I'm not ready, Liam said. His voice was rough but steady. I'll speak when the time is right. Gasps rose from the crowd. To delay a demand was unheard of. The law said the request must be made within one cycle of the twin moons. After that, the right would vanish like mist. Voss's jaw tightened. So be it. You will be held in the Hall of Echoes until you choose to speak, or until your time runs out. Guards moved to take him, but Ilara stepped between them. He is under my protection, she said. Voss's eyes flashed. You overstep, Moonweaver. And you fear what you do not understand, Ilara replied calmly. For a long moment, the two women stood locked in silence. Then Voss turned sharply. Fine, let the dragon lover guard the bone wearer. But know this, if he breaks our laws again, I will not send him to the maw. I will end him myself. With that, she turned and walked back into the spire. Ilara led Liam through winding streets to a quiet quarter of the city, far from the main towers. Her home was a small stone house with a rooftop garden where Ember liked to bask in the suns. Inside, the air smelled of herbs and old paper. You should rest, she said, handing him a bowl of warm broth. Liam ate slowly. Why did you protect me? Ilara sat across from him, her hands folded. Because the Dreadmaw does not speak to just anyone. And Ember, he chose you. Liam looked up. Chose me? She nodded. Dragons do not bond lightly. They sense truth, honor, strength of spirit. When you first arrived, Ember watched you. He did not growl. He did not flee. He listened. Liam remembered the dragon's quiet presence in the pit, the way it had nudged his hand. He had thought it was kindness. Now he wondered if it was something deeper. Over the next few days, Liam stayed in Ilara's home. She brought him clean clothes, tended his wounds, and taught him simple Silthari words. In return, he told her about Earth, about oceans that stretched forever, about cities made of glass and light, about music that made people cry with joy. Ilara listened like she had never heard such things before. You humans feel so much, she said one evening as they sat on the roof, watching the stars. We do, Liam said. Sometimes it hurts, but it's also what keeps us going. Ember curled up beside them, wings tucked close, eyes half closed in contentment. But peace did not last. Rumors began to spread through the city. Some said Liam had tricked the Dreadmaw. Others claimed he used dark human tech to kill it. A few even whispered that he was a spy sent by the Terran Alliance to weaken the Silthari from within. Voss did nothing to stop the rumors. In fact, she encouraged them. One night as Liam slept, stones crashed through the window. Angry voices shouted from the street below. Bone thief! Liar! Send him back to the maw! Ilara stood in the doorway, Ember at her side, her hand on the hilt of her blade. She did not flinch. The next morning, she took Liam to the Silent Archives, a hidden library deep beneath the city, known only to a few. If you are to face the conclave, she said, you must understand what you truly faced in the pit. Inside the archives, she showed him carvings older than the Silthari Empire. They showed a time when the Dreadmaw was not a monster, but a guardian. It had been created by an ancient race, the same race that built the first starships, the same race that vanished without a trace. The Dreadmaw was meant to protect something buried deep in the planet's core. Something powerful, something dangerous. The Silthari forgot, Ilara whispered. They turned a protector into a myth of terror. Liam stared at the carvings. So I didn't kill a beast. I freed a sentinel. Yes, she said. And in doing so, you woke something else. That night, the ground trembled. Not a quake, something deeper. A pulse like a heartbeat from the planet itself. Ember rose from his sleep, wings flared, eyes wide with alarm. He let out a sharp cry and bolted for the door. Ilara grabbed Liam's arm. We have to go now. They ran through the dark streets as the city bells began to ring. Not the warning for invasion, but the chime of awakening. A sound not heard in 10,000 cycles. At the central plaza, the high conclave had gathered. Voss stood at the front, her face pale. The core stirs, one elder said, voice shaking. The seal is broken. Voss turned, her eyes locking onto Liam. You did this. Liam stepped forward. I didn't break anything. I set something free. And now it calls, Ilara said, joining him. Not to destroy, but to remember. The crowd fell silent. Even Voss seemed unsure. Then Liam did something no one expected. He removed his bone helmet and placed it on the ground. Then he knelt, not in submission but in respect. I didn't come here to fight you, he said, voice clear and strong. I came here because I had no choice. But I won't be your enemy. And I won't let fear decide what happens next. Ember walked to his side and lowered his head, as if bowing too. For the first time, the Silthari saw not a trespasser, not a threat, but a man who had faced death and chosen mercy. Voss said nothing, but she did not order his arrest. As the twin moons rose high, casting long shadows over Silthar, Liam stood among the Silthari, bone armor gleaming, dragon at his side, and waited. He still had not spoken his demand, but everyone knew now. It would change everything. The city of Silthar did not sleep that night. Lights burned in every tower. Guards patrolled the streets in double shifts. Whispers moved like wind through the alleys, some afraid, some angry, some full of wonder. The core had stirred. The planet itself seemed to breathe again after ages of silence. And at the center of it all stood Liam Carter, the human who wore the bones of the Dreadmaw and walked with a dragon at his side. Ilara knew they could not stay. Voss might not have ordered Liam's arrest yet, but her eyes told a different story. She saw him not as a guest, not as a hero, but as a threat to everything the Silthari believed. Their history, their power, their place in the stars, all of it rested on the idea that they were the chosen ones, the rightful heirs of the old world. But if a human could calm the Dreadmaw, if he could awaken the core without violence, then their entire truth was built on sand. We have to leave, Ilara told Liam the next morning. They stood on the rooftop watching Ember circle above, his wings catching the first light of the red sun. Where would we go? Liam asked. The Whispering Peaks, she said. Beyond the city. Few go there. The stone sings there, they say. And the old paths still remember. Liam nodded. He had no home here. No allies except her and the dragon. Staying meant waiting for Voss to find a reason to strike. They left at dusk. Ilara wore a dark travel cloak. Liam kept his bone armor. It was light, strong, and offered more protection than any Silthari steel. Ember flew low, staying close to the ground to avoid being seen. They moved through back alleys, past silent markets, and out through an old service gate in the western wall. No one stopped them. For 3 days they walked. The land changed as they climbed. The rust-colored plains gave way to jagged ridges and deep canyons. The air grew thin and cold. Strange plants glowed softly in the dark, their petals opening only when touched by starlight. On the 4th night, they made camp in a narrow cave. Liam built a small fire while Ilara checked their supplies. Ember curled near the entrance, ears twitching at every sound. You never told me why you helped me, Liam said quietly. Ilara looked up from her pack. I told you. Ember chose you. That's not all of it, he said. She was silent for a long time. Then she sat beside him. When I was young, my mother told me a story. She said that long ago, before the Silthari rose, there were others who walked the stars, beings of flesh and heart, not just light and pride. They built the first gates. They sang the first songs to the void. And when the great silence came, they vanished, but not all of them died. Some slept, some hid, some waited. She looked at him. I think you are one of them. Liam shook his head. I'm just a scout. I fix engines. I read maps. I'm not special. But you listened, she said. When the Dreadmaw spoke, you did not raise a weapon. You listened. That is rare. Even among my people. Before he could reply, Ember let out a sharp hiss. His wings snapped open. Alara was on her feet in an instant. They found us. From the ridge above, figures appeared, 6 of them clad in black armor, faces hidden behind smooth masks. Hunters. Voss's elite. Run, Alara whispered. They fled deeper into the canyon, the hunters close behind. Arrows whistled past, striking stone and sparking blue fire. Liam pulled Alara behind a boulder as one arrow grazed his shoulder. The bone armor held, but the impact knocked the breath from him. Ember took to the air, diving at the hunters with claws and flame. One mask cracked under the dragon's strike. The hunter fell, screaming, but there were too many. Alara drew her blade, a slender weapon that hummed with pale light. She moved like water, fast and silent. She cut down 2 more before a net of energy wrapped around her legs and pulled her to the ground. Liam charged, using his size and weight to knock one hunter off balance. He grabbed the fallen blade and swung wildly, not with skill but with desperation. Then a voice rang out from the ridge. Enough. Commander Voss stood there, flanked by 2 more hunters. She held a staff that pulsed with red energy. You disappoint me, Moonweaver, she said, choosing a human over your own kind. He is not my enemy, Alara said, struggling against the net. And he is not your savior, Voss shot back. She pointed the staff at Liam. You think you understand what you awakened. You do not. The core is not a gift. It is a weapon, and weapons do not choose who they serve. Liam stood tall, breathing hard. Then why are you so afraid of me asking for the truth? Voss's eyes narrowed. Because truth breaks empires, she raised her hand. The hunters tensed, but before she could give the order, the ground shook, not a tremor. A roar from deep below, a sound like 1,000 voices crying out at once. The canyon walls cracked. Light poured from the fissures, golden warm, alive. The hunters stumbled back, shielding their eyes. Even Voss looked shaken. Ember landed beside Liam and let out a cry that was half warning, half song. Then the visions came. Liam saw it first, a flash of memory not his own. A vast ship shaped like a seed drifting between stars. Humans, not like him but taller, wiser, working alongside beings of light and shadow, building, healing, teaching. Alara gasped. She saw it too. Her hands flew to her temples. The dragon song, "It's showing us." Voss staggered, her staff falling from her grip. No, it cannot be. The vision grew clearer. The humans were not invaders. They were the ones who built the Dreadmaw. They were the ones who sealed the core to protect the galaxy from a war that nearly ended all life. And when the war was over, they vanished. Not because they were defeated, but because they chose to sleep to wait for a time when the stars would need them again. The Silthari were not the heirs. They were the caretakers, and they had forgotten their duty. The light faded. The shaking stopped. Silence fell over the canyon. Voss looked at Liam, her face pale. You knew. I didn't, Liam said. Not until now. Alara rose slowly, the net falling away as if it had lost its power. The demand. It was never about power or revenge. It was about memory. Voss turned away, her shoulders tight. If this gets out, the conclave will tear itself apart. Our history is a lie. Then it's time to tell the truth, Alara said. Voss did not order the attack. She simply walked away, her hunters following in silence. Liam and Alara stood alone in the canyon, the wind cold on their skin. What now? Liam asked. Alara looked toward the highest peak where a faint blue glow pulsed in the rock. Now we go to the archive, the real one. Not the carvings in the city, the one the Dreadmaw guarded, the one beneath the mountain. They climbed through the night. At dawn they reached a cave mouth hidden behind a waterfall of liquid light. Ember led the way, his scales glowing in response to the energy in the air. Inside, the walls were covered in symbols, human symbols, letters, numbers, star charts. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal. On it rested a sphere of crystal, humming softly. Liam touched it. Images flooded his mind, coordinates, names of lost colonies, messages left by his ancestors. Humanity had not been alone. They had been scattered, hidden, waiting for someone to remember. Alara watched him, tears in her eyes. You are not just a scout, she whispered. You are a key, Outside, the sky darkened. Not from clouds, but from ships. Voss had not given up. She had called the fleet. "They'll seal the mountain," Alara said. "Bury us alive." Liam looked at the crystal, then at Ember, then at Alara. "Then we don't stay." He took the sphere. It fit in his palm like it was made for him. As they ran from the cave, the first bombs fell on the ridge above. Stone shattered. Fire rained down, but Ember spread his wings wide and let out a roar that shook the peaks. And from deep within the earth, something answered. The planet was awake, and it remembered its children. The high conclave gathered under the twin moons, their silver robes shimmering like frozen rivers. The great hall of Silthar was filled with the eldest of the Silthari, scholars, warriors, and seers who had shaped the laws of their people for centuries. At the center of the chamber stood the bone arch, carved from the ribs of ancient beasts, where truth was meant to be spoken without fear. Liam Carter stood beneath it, wearing the armor of the Dreadmaw, the crystal sphere hidden in a pouch at his side. Alara stood a few steps behind him, her hand resting lightly on Ember's head. The dragon's eyes glowed softly, watching the crowd with quiet intensity. Commander Kaelin Voss sat at the head of the conclave, her face unreadable, but her fingers tapping once against the arm of her stone seat, a sign of unease. The elder seer, a woman with eyes clouded by age but voice sharp as glass, spoke first. "Human, you have returned from the Maw. You wear the bones of the Dreadmaw. By law you may speak one demand before this council. Choose wisely, for once spoken it cannot be undone." All eyes turned to Liam. He took a slow breath. He had thought about this moment every night since he climbed out of the pit. He could ask for a ship to leave Veles. He could demand Voss be removed from power. He could ask for weapons, for allies, for revenge. But he did not want any of those things. "I ask for truth," he said. His voice was calm, clear, and carried through the hall without echo. A murmur rose among the conclave. "What truth?" the seer asked. "The truth about who we are," Liam said. "About who you are. About the war that ended the old world. About the humans who built the Dreadmaw not as a monster, but as a guardian. About the core that sleeps beneath this planet, not as a weapon, but as a memory." Voss stood abruptly. "This is madness. He twists old myths to serve his own ends." "He does not twist," Alara said, stepping forward. "He remembers." She turned to the conclave. "I have seen the archive beneath the whispering peaks. I have heard the dragon song. The humans were not invaders. They were the ones who saved us all. They sealed the core to stop a war that would have burned every star to ash. And when it was over, they vanished, not in defeat, but in hope. They believed one day someone would wake and remember." Voss's voice was sharp. "And you believe a human scout in a dragon's dream over our history?" "I believe what my eyes have seen," Alara replied. "And what my heart knows." The seer raised a hand. Silence fell. "Then let the trial decide," she said. Voss's eyes widened. "The right of Ashen Accord? That has not been called in 10,000 cycles." "It is the only way," the seer said. "When truth is in doubt, the old law demands a champion's trial, not of blade, but of memory. Two souls enter the mind well. One emerges with the true vision. The other is lost to the echo." Liam looked at Alara. "What is the mind well?" "A pool deep beneath the city," she said quietly. "It shows the last moments of a great death. To enter it is to relive that moment as if you were there. Only those with pure intent can walk out whole." Voss stepped forward. "I will stand as champion for the Silthari." Alara turned to Liam. "Then I choose you as my champion." Liam nodded. He had faced the Dreadmaw. He could face this. They were led to a chamber far below the city where a pool of still water glowed with soft blue light. The air was cold and thick with the scent of old stone. "The rules are simple," the seer said. "Both will enter the pool. Both will witness the final moments of the Dreadmaw. The one who returns with the true memory will be believed. The other may not return at all." Voss removed her outer robes. Liam kept his bone armor. It was part of the memory now. They stepped into the water together. Cold rushed through Liam's body. Then darkness. Suddenly he was back in the pit, but this time he was not alone. He saw Voss standing beside him, her eyes wide with fear. Around them the Dreadmaw loomed, its massive form pulsing with pain and sorrow. "You came to kill me," the Dreadmaw whispered to Voss. She raised a blade made of light. "It is the law." But Liam stepped between them. "No," He reached out not with a weapon but with an open hand. You are not a beast. You are a guardian, and you are tired. The Dreadmaw's eye softened. Yes. Then it turned to Voss. You see only the fang, not the heart. Voss hesitated. For the first time, doubt flickered in her eyes. In the vision, Liam did not fight. He sat, he spoke, he listened. And the Dreadmaw, after ages of loneliness, chose to rest. It gave its bones not as a trophy but as a gift. The vision shifted. Liam saw the humans of old, tall, gentle, wise, placing the last seal on the core. They wept as they left, not for themselves but for the future they hoped would come. Then silence. Liam opened his eyes. He was back in the pool. Voss stood across from him, trembling. Tears ran down her face. She looked at him, and for the first time she did not see an enemy. She saw a mirror. They walked out together. The conclave waited in silence. The seer looked at them both. Who holds the true memory? Voss fell to her knees. He does. Gasps filled the hall. The Dreadmaw was never our enemy, Voss said, her voice breaking. We made it one. We forgot our duty. We feared what we did not understand. She turned to Liam. You did not kill it. You gave it peace. Alara stepped forward, tears in her eyes. And in doing so, you gave us back our truth. The seer nodded slowly. The right is complete. The demand stands. The human has spoken for truth. And truth has answered. Voss rose, her shoulders straight. Then let the records be opened. Let the old songs be sung again. Let the galaxy know that humanity was not lost. They were waiting. Liam removed the crystal sphere from his pouch and placed it on the bone arch. It glowed brighter, projecting star maps into the air. Dozens of hidden human colonies, sleeping in the dark between stars. We are not alone, Liam said, and we never were. Ember let out a soft cry, and the light from the sphere reflected in his eyes like distant suns. The conclave bowed their heads not in shame, but in honor. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Silthari remembered who they were meant to be. And Liam Carter, the human scout who wore the bones of a beast, had not asked for power. He had given them back their soul. The city of Silthar changed in the days that followed. The great libraries that had been sealed for generations were opened. Scrolls written in human script were brought into the light. The carvings on the walls were no longer seen as myth, but as memory. And at the center of it all stood Alara Moonweaver, now named Voice of the New Accord, a title given to those who bridge worlds, not break them. Liam did not take a title. He refused honors, robes, or a seat on the conclave. He only asked for one thing, a ship, not a warship, not a weapon, but a sky barge, old, sturdy, built for travel, not battle. The Silthari gave it to him freely, refitted with human controls and Silthari star maps. They called it the Ember Wing, after the dragon who had chosen a human as kin. On the day of departure, the entire city gathered at the sky dock. Even Voss came, her armor plain, her expression quiet. She did not speak, but she bowed her head as Liam passed. It was enough. Alara stood beside him at the ramp, her silver hair loose in the wind. She wore a traveler's cloak, not a council robe. You are coming with me, Liam said. It was not a question. I am, she replied. The accord is not just words. It must be lived. Ember circled above them once, then landed lightly on the ship's railing, his copper scales catching the red light of the twin suns. He let out a soft chirp as if to say, finally. The ship lifted slowly, engines humming with a sound like distant thunder. Below, the people of Silthar watched in silence as the Emberwing rose into the rust-colored sky. Liam stood at the viewport, watching Valus shrink behind them. He felt no joy, no triumph, only purpose. What now? Alara asked, joining him. Now we find the others, he said. The crystal sphere had shown him more than just maps. It had shown him signals, faint, old, but real. Human outposts hidden in dead zones, frozen worlds, asteroid belts, places the galaxy had forgotten, places where his people slept, waiting for someone to remember them. Their first stop was the Helios Drift, a cluster of derelict stations orbiting a dying star. According to the sphere, one of them held a cryo vault with over 300 souls inside. The journey took 12 days. During that time, Liam taught Alara how to read human star charts. She taught him the old Silthari songs, the ones about stars being born from tears and dragons weaving dreams into the fabric of space. Ember slept in the cargo hold, curled around a crate of glowing moss he seemed to enjoy. On the 12th night, they saw it, a ring of broken stations, drifting like bones in the dark. There, Liam said, pointing to the largest one. Its hull was cracked, but a single light still blinked near the docking bay. They landed carefully. The air inside was stale, cold, but breathable. Gravity was weak. In the central chamber, they found the vault. Rows of glass pods lined the walls, each one holding a person in deep sleep. Their faces were peaceful, their names etched into small plaques below. Liam placed his hand on the control panel. It lit up at his touch, human tech still waiting for human hands. One by one, the pods opened. The first to wake was a woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She looked at Liam, then at Alara, then at Ember, who peeked in through the doorway. "Are we safe?" she whispered. Liam nodded. "You are." Tears filled her eyes. "We thought no one would come." Word spread fast among the sleepers. Soon the chamber was filled with voices, human voices, laughing, crying, hugging. They had been asleep for over 200 years. Alara stood back, watching. "They are like children waking from a long dream." Liam smiled. "And now they get to see the stars again." But their work was not done. The sphere showed more signals. Dozens of them, scattered across the galaxy, some strong, some fading. As the Emberwing left the Helios drift, now carrying 300 new souls, Liam knew the real journey was just beginning. Back on Velius, the Silthari began to change. They sent word to their allies, sharing the truth they had hidden for so long. Some refused to believe. Others listened. Wars would come, yes, but also alliances, new understandings. And out in the dark, a human, an elf woman, and her dragon flew toward the next light. The galaxy still thought humanity was weak, primitive, doomed to fade. But they did not know about the bone wearer. They did not know about the dragon who chose a friend over fear. They did not know that the lost were waking, and they did not know that the real war was not about conquest. It was about memory, about hope, about the simple, stubborn act of refusing to let the light go out. As the Emberwing vanished into the starry deep, Ember let out a low, rumbling song, a sound that carried farther than any engine, farther than any weapon. It was a call, and somewhere, in the silence between stars, another human heard it and answered.